Hi, welcome back to Loveland Living Planet Aquarium. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Utah's Exhilarating Ecosystems. Today we will learn from two experts about a fish that you can find only in Utah's rivers and lakes.
So the June sucker is native to Utah Lake, and Utah Lake and its tributaries are actually the only place in the world where it's found. So it's a really unique fish to Utah Valley and the culture here. It was recently downlisted from endangered to threatened, and that was following years of recovery efforts. At one point in the 1980s, it was estimated that there was between 300 and 1,000 adults left in the wild. And now we estimate there's between 30 and 50,000 adults in the wild. So it's really quite a conservation success story, and we're here to celebrate that today. My job primarily is to perform research and monitoring activities on the June sucker, which is a threatened species endemic to Utah Lake and the Provo River.
The June sucker is a mid-water sucker species. It is a really neat fish, as it's endemic only to Utah. And because it swims mid-column, it feeds more in the middle section of the water column. And mid-column is the middle layer of the water, so not at the surface and not at the bottom, but kind of that right middle section of the water column.
Most people think of sucker fishes as kind of bottom feeders, scraping the bottom for algae. The June sucker is actually unique in the sense that it's actually a planktivore, so it's a mid-water fish. It's not a bottom feeder. So it's a schooling fish. They congregate in the middle of the water column and feed on zooplankton. And so in that regard, it's unique. And it's actually one of 4 species that are in the lake sucker family. So it's a very rare fish.
Feeding them at the aquarium is really unique in that we have to keep the food suspended in the water column so that they can capture it rather than eat them at the surface or anything at the bottom. Caring for the June sucker is really neat because not a lot of public aquariums have them. So really focusing in on their native ability in Utah lets us be one of the few places where you can come see them in the public eye.
As many of you know, we're having a tremendous drought right now, and that's been affecting the water levels here at Utah Lake and the Provo River, where we're sitting here today. And that really affects the June sucker negatively. They need good springtime flows in the tributaries to make their spawning migration up the tributaries of Utah Lake. And so I would say water conservation is paramount for June sucker recovery. And without those water flows, the fish would not be able to spawn. Every drop of water in the river is important. So when people conserve water, it really helps the habitat for these fish.
You can also come see June suckers at Loveland Living Planet Aquarium. You can find them directly across from the otter habitat in the Utah Gallery. Coming to see June suckers at Loveland Living Planet Aquarium helps the conservation of all of the species.
With your help and conservation efforts, local endangered species like the June sucker have a better chance to thrive. Join us on our next episode of Utah's Exhilarating Ecosystems and follow along on our social media to learn more about how you can help native endangered species.